Hey guys, another 10-minute review. So today we have an action piece by Tomasz, a really cool scene, and I want to review it mainly because the reference is really well kind of like taken, but there's a few things and pointers that I can give you guys in order to actually make the most out of your reference. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so welcome to another 10-minute review. So my name is Harvey Newman, for those that don't know me. I've been in the games industry for nearly 2 decades now, and I love to animate. I was an animator, animation director, animation lead, all kinds of different positions over the years, worked in many games, and now I'm here on YouTube sharing my passion with all of you. Now, I actually do these 10-minute reviews to make sure that people have a feeling for what my mentorship is like. So if you guys like this, after the video, feel free to check out the mentorship. Now, when it comes to this review, I'm just going to go ahead and put my trusty timer 10 minutes on the clock now, and we're gonna check out the piece by Tomasz and see what he has done. All right, so quick piece with reference, looks cool, awesome stuff. Now, as always, our community, our people in our Discord server already has been giving Tomasz some feedback, so you can see here already about it. And there's one note specifically here that mentions that the person believes that Tomasz followed the reference too closely. And here's the good stuff that you're doing right now, Tomasz. So whenever you take reference and you have a cool piece of reference like this one, for sure you need to copy it one-to-one initially, right? So what you're doing here works really well when you are blocking out. So when you have your Maya, when you have your keys in-stepped and you find your golden poses, 100% follow through the reference and make sure that it looks like exactly how the video is looking, right? So that's really cool. However, then after you actually take the main essence of your reference, you need to start pushing it, right? So what I like to do is basically on your situation, on your piece of reference, before you get into this section of the animation where you go into Maya and you start actually posing your character, when I look at my video here, right, I normally like to draw over. So you can bring it into CSync Sketch if you like to. You can actually use Keyframe MP if you like to, but bring it to a place where you can draw over, because what happens is that when it comes to reference, and this is why I'm doing this 10-minute review, to give you guys some golden tips, fingers crossed. When you are looking at your reference, you kind of have to analyze it and extract as much information as possible before you start animating. The name of the game is definitely preparation, right? The more you prepare to actually execute your animation, the better your animation is going to be. And I cannot stress this enough, because a lot of the times, even myself over the years, I don't take reference, and I know that my animation will be much better if I had just taken the half an hour to a day or a half a day to actually take reference and prepare myself and study the reference before I go in. Because what happens, and I mentioned this here before in the 10-minute review, is that you, especially as a young animator, you have to build your bank of motion, of movement in your head before you can go ahead and just do it from the top without reference. And at this point in time, you studying reference is the best way for you to build that bank of motion, of movement in your head. So I would actually go through here, and apologies because I'm actually kind of drawing with my mouse, but I would actually go through here and then go through my reference and try to kind of find the pose of this. Let me just make my brush a little bit bigger. I'll go through and try to find a pose that actually looks more appealing than this, perhaps. See if there's anything that I want pushed, right? Perhaps this leg needs to come out a little bit more here as you go through. What is this arm doing? Try to draw over that arm as much as possible. Most likely that arm is going to be around here somewhere, doing something like this, right? So you can find things like that. Same thing with the other character. This pose is really appealing on this video, but it's not really visible on your animation. So definitely make sure that you add a note, and you can start writing on your reference and basically go write something here somewhere that tells you, make sure that you see the secondary character at this point in time without starting your animation, right? And just go through it frame by frame as you go through your reference. Now, another thing to actually point out here is that your role as an animator is to entertain and to push things to a more entertaining level, because reality is boring, and I've mentioned this here before and I'll continue mentioning it, but reality as we know it is basically what we know. And when we see something that it looks exactly like reality, it's okay. And in this case, the guy is doing something kind of heroic, but it's not amazing, right? So your role is to exacerbate and manipulate the animation so it looks amazing, right? So this is how you do it, by studying the reference and being like, maybe this pose here, like, you know, when he actually hits the maximum pose here, looks cool this way, fair enough, but it will look cooler if you actually have maybe this leg like this, right? So like you have a little like better pose, a more dynamic pose, right? Same thing here, like he's actually slightly up, but maybe if you actually were a bit more flat over here, it would look much cooler, right? While the head will be around there. But what about this arm? The arm with a gun, does it look better if I actually do something else? So likewise, you can just go in and you start to tweak things and try to find out if there's a pose that perhaps works better than the one that you have right now. I don't know if that works better in any ways, but it's just a different shape, right? So you start studying it that way. And I've just noticed here while I was doing that just by you kind of closing that leg and leaving that leg closed for a little longer, you can pop it faster, right? So there's another thing that you do as well in animation, which is basically closing and opening like spontaneously, right? Like the law of opposites. And normally in animation, if you actually are exaggerating something, you can actually push that to the max, right? So for example, here on the bottom, and once again, this is part of that studying the reference, I noticed that he actually kind of like, the leg is down, this leg here, and then he goes up, and then he goes down again, right? And he does that in a smooth fashion because obviously the laws of gravity apply, and he's trying to do it as fast as possible. But in animation, you can actually push that further, right? So I can tell right now that if he's actually up to put, he can actually put his leg a little bit up faster, right? So this is the foot here, right? And then he stays in this position for a little longer, like I did here, it will actually look much more appealing to the viewer. So like here, the leg is still like closed, so that then you have a nice silhouette here. And then right at the end, before he actually goes down, he can just pop out this leg and maybe pop out the leg straight, right? Like down, and then like recoil the other leg. And it's the same thing for this leg here, right? If you can actually keep it as stretched and as straight as possible for as long as possible, that pop is going to feel much bigger, much better, much more satisfying, right? So we can actually do that. That law of opposites also happens with the arms. Like you can basically keep your arms maybe closed until he kicks, and as soon as he kicks, you can just open his arm or perhaps overlap with the leg. So maybe the leg kicks first, and then as soon 2 or 3 frames later, the arms open up, right? Because you have this motion here, see, over here on this arm, that he actually kind of like opens the arm as he's going down, and that's a good thing. But once again, you can exaggerate that timing to be a bit more poppy, to actually feel better, right? Same thing when he comes down, this arm feels very much like gets hidden within the silhouette. So I would definitely open this arm so it looks a little bit more like this. So the arm is like downwards right here, right? So you have a little bit of a negative space right there. And then you kind of you can go from here to then relaxing the arm down, right? And then it's the end position. So this is the first step that I would do when it comes to reference. Draw over, study it, think about things that you can exaggerate. Doesn't matter if it's timing, spacing, posing, whatever it is. Do as much as you possibly can with the knowledge that you have currently. And then when you are animating it, you can then exaggerate further, right? So this whole piece, you can start playing with the camera to make sure that the camera is different than this, right? So it doesn't look one-to-one, because that actually means that you're following the reference too closely, and you don't want to do that. So try to find another angle, an angle that actually maybe sells the action better, an angle that maybe exacerbates things better. Add a camera shake if you want to, right? Same thing with this guy. This guy, perhaps when he actually gets kicked, he actually stays in the air for longer. So as soon as he gets kicked in his chest, maybe he flips, stays up for a little longer, and then bounces down, right? So you can look at other types of reference in other videos as well and mash them with this. You can look at another reference of like somebody getting kicked in the chest, and then maybe that looks a little bit more exaggerated, kung fu movies and stuff. And then you can use that as your reference for the secondary character after he gets kicked in the chest. So you can actually play around with a bunch of different references and different things to make your animation more exaggerated, more entertaining for everybody that is looking at it. Because that's the name of the game, right? Oh, there you go. And it's finished. 10 minutes on the clock. But overall, I really like your animation, Tomasz. It looks really cool. I like how you actually picked up on this piece of reference as being cool. I like that. Just keep these things in mind as you're actually working through your animations, because that initial stage of actually taking reference and actually pushing reference and studying the reference is absolutely essential, and is a really good shortcut to make you a better animator, right? And that's it. If you guys enjoyed this, if this was useful to you, consider subscribing, consider liking, hitting the like button, and then drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this was useful, if you opened your eyes, if you learned something new. And then shout out to my Patreons, everybody in Patreon supporting me every single month. We have a few more people joining this month, which I'm highly thankful. If you actually considering joining, it will be great, because all the money goes straight to this channel to make it better every single week. And also, once again, this is a snippet of what I showcase in my mentorship. So if you guys want more and all that stuff, definitely consider joining the mentorship. Also, just so you guys know, if you join my Patreon, you can get a 30% discount on any mentorship packages that you get. So if you want to do it that way, great, right? And that's all I had for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next week, stay well, stay safe. Peace.